One of the great opportunities we have in Lent is having a little bit of time to strip away the conditions that we try to put on God. I know I've caught myself doing this before, and I'm sure some of you have as well. Whether it's faithfulness to daily prayer, a willingness to invite God into our decision making, or our ability to trust Him and just remain calm when difficulties arise. We all tend to create rules for our relationship with God. And that's understandable. When we relate to other human beings, it's necessary to have some basic boundaries and expectations and so forth. But when we try to impose those things on the infinite and almighty God, problems arise. And today's readings are perfect examples of that. So first there's Naaman the Syrian. He expects God, and by extension Elisha, to show themselves and perform a dramatic act of healing proportional to his plight, to his leprosy. But when all he gets is a mundane recommendation, just go wash in the river, he dismisses them as frauds. But at the counsel of his servants, he relents, and he learns his lesson. In the end, he gives up the conditions that he had placed on God. He gave up the expectations that he had for a God who comes to heal him in some dramatic, unique way. And he accepts that a truly powerful God isn't constrained to any one way of doing things. What about us? How do we expect God to work in our lives? And are we disappointed? Do we despair when we can't see what God is doing? In our desire to do something great, do we scoff at doing God's will in something small, the way Naaman did? Similar questions arise from the gospel reading. Jesus returns home to Nazareth to find a crowd that wants him to perform miraculous signs and healings for all the wrong reasons. But what does he say in verse 23, right before this gospel passage? He says, "Surely you will quote from me this proverb, 'Physician, cure yourself.'" That's our expectation. That's how we think everyone should behave, and that's what we're imposing on God. Again, Jesus knows that the people expect him to act a certain way, and he challenges them to give up those expectations. This time, though, they don't do it. There are no servants to reason with them. Their anger gets the better of them, and they reject Jesus because he didn't turn out to be exactly what they wanted. They demand that God work on their terms, or not at all. And they miss the grace they could have received. I think we all fall into this at some point or another. I know I have throughout my time in ministry. And I got a reminder of that actually when I came here in September to start my pastoral year. So I've shared before that my second year of seminary, I was living at Holy Trinity in Irving, and I was going to school there and all that. And then on Wednesday nights, I would come here, and I would help out with confirmation classes and other things. My small group that I had for confirmation that year was really, really rough. It was like kids between the ages of, I'd say about 13 and 16. They were horribly behaved. They did not want to be there. They would always cause a racket. They were really mean to me and surprisingly to each other, which was a new one for me. I didn't know what to do with that at that point. And it was a tough year. The guy who was supposed to be helping me run that group discerned out in the middle of the year and quit on me. And so it was just me and these kids. And I prayed and kept working. And by the end of the year, I felt like I'd made a little bit of progress, but not much. And I sent those kids off for confirmation, still kind of worried about them. I don't think they really got it. I don't think I did what I was supposed to do here. But I had to go. I had to move on with my formation. And so I did. And lots of other things happened. I finished up in college seminary. I went on to theology in New Orleans, yada, yada. And then almost 5 years later, I came back here last September. And one of the first weeks I was here, I went to serve the 2:30 Mass on a Sunday. And I ran into two of those kids from that small group way back in the day. And I'm not going to tell you their names because I don't want to out them, but they were so funny. They started saying, "Oh man, thank you so much for like bearing with us and sticking with us in that group. We still remember what you did. I was thinking the other day, like, man, we were really mean to those guys. Like, we should have treated them better." And it was amazing to talk to them and see about their own conversions and the ways that their hearts had changed in the years since I'd been gone. And it taught me not to let my disappointment get the better of me in those ministerial situations, right? It's very easy, it's very tempting for me to look back on all the places I've been, all the people I've tried to teach, all the ways where I felt like I've failed, and just be confused and depressed and angry. But that's not warranted, right? It's not that I didn't do what God needed me to do in those scenarios. It's just that God worked through me in a way that I could not see or understand, that I still, in some cases, cannot see or understand. I may never know what all the good was that I did. But because I have that little moment, I can see those little things that God has given me to see, I can understand, I can be patient with him, and I can say, God, I may never get this, I may never see the fruit of this, I may never know what you're doing in my life, but I'm not going to put rules on you. I'm going to let you work the way you need to work through me, and that's it. That's the surrender that I wish for each of you this Lent.